1. Let me tell you about this absolutely wicked 1940 Ford pickup that's caught my eye on Craigslist. Listen up, because this isn't your average classic truck. We're looking at a proper street rod build that perfectly blends pre-war charm with modern attitude. At $29,900, you're getting an iconic piece of American automotive history that's been given some serious love and attention. This beauty sits low and proud, rocking a clean white paint job and packing a rumbling V8 under that gorgeous vintage hood. What really gets me excited is that it's not just some pretty showpiece, it's a fully functional, turnkey street rod with just 800 miles on the build. The automatic transmission makes it totally cruise-worthy, and that rear-wheel drive setup is exactly what you want in a classic rod like this. The current owner has put some real care into this truck over the past couple years, focusing on the interior work and exterior details. What's really cool is that this was their first vintage vehicle, and you can tell they treated it with respect while making it their own. The pre-war Ford pickups are legendary for a reason. That iconic front end, those flowing fenders, and that timeless profile that just screams classic Americana. And this one's been built to drive, which is exactly what these machines deserve. Look, I'm being straight with you here. At this price point, you're getting a well-sorted street rod that's ready to hit the road right now. No project car headaches, no waiting to get it running. Just pure, classic Ford pickup enjoyment with some extra hot rod attitude thrown in for good measure. Man, I can already hear that V8 rumbling at the next Cars and Coffee meetup. What do you think about this piece of rolling history? 2. Let me tell you about this interesting 1975 Ford F-350 dump truck I found on Craigslist for $4,900. I've got to be honest with you. This isn't a show truck, and the seller's being upfront about its fair condition. What we've got here is a proper workhorse with the legendary 390 V8 under the hood. The odometer shows 112,071 miles. But let's be real. It's rolled over, so we're looking at some serious mileage here. But here's the good news. According to the seller, it still runs great, which is exactly what you want to hear about a working dump truck. The blue paint probably isn't winning any beauty contests, but that's not what this truck is about. It's a genuine working-class hero with some really practical features. The bed size is pretty generous at 7-6 x 9-6, and here's a big plus. With its 10K GVWR rating, you don't need to deal with those pesky scale stops. They've put new tires on it, which is a significant investment and shows some care for maintenance. The manual transmission is what you'd expect in a truck of this era, and honestly, it's what you want for this kind of work vehicle. At $4,900, you're looking at a functional dump truck that doesn't need smog checks, which is a nice bonus. Sure, it's got its battle scars and it's not perfect, but for someone who needs a reliable work truck for actual work, not just show, this could be a solid choice. These old Ford F-350s were built tough, and this one seems to still be proving that point after all these years. What do you think about this old-school working truck? Would you put it to work, or is it too rough around the edges for your taste? 3. Let me tell you about this interesting 1969 Dodge D200 I spotted on Craigslist for $5,500. This is one of those classic workhorses that's got some real character to it. Let's be real here. This truck's got patina, which is a nice way of saying it's wearing its age proudly. But don't let that fool you, because under that weathered exterior, there's been some serious mechanical love given to this old Dodge. The seller's done quite a bit of work where it counts. The heart of this beast is a 383 big block, which is a fantastic engine choice, and it's been upgraded with some tasty bits. We're talking headers with dual exhaust, an Edelbrock carb, and manifold setup. They've also tackled the important stuff. New fuel system components including an electric pump and fresh tank, new aluminum radiator with hoses, new battery, and a new starter. Even better, they've addressed the common rust issues by repairing the floor, which is huge for these old trucks. It's sitting pretty on new wheels and tires, and while the odometer's broken, showing 321 miles, gotta love that. The important thing is that it starts, runs, drives, and stops, which is exactly what you want to hear. It's got the automatic transmission, which makes it an easy cruiser, and being a 3-4 ton long bed swept side, it's one of the more desirable body styles. Look, this isn't a pristine show truck, but at $5,500 you're getting a running and driving piece of Mopar history with some smart upgrades. The truck's currently on non-op status, but with all the mechanical work that's been done, it seems like a solid foundation for either a cool daily driver or a gradual restoration project. 4. Let me tell you about this intriguing 1979 Ford Ranchero that's popped up on Craigslist for just $2,800. This is one of those situations where the price really makes you do a double take when you hear what's been done to it. Let's be totally straight here. This is an unfinished project, but hold on because there's some serious value under the hood. The sellers dropped $5,000 on a fresh engine from Action Cylinder Heads in Santee with only 30 miles on it. That's like getting the engine almost for free at this asking price, and they say it runs and drives perfectly. The interior's in that classic project car state. They've invested in new upholstered seats, $900 worth, and new carpet, but it needs to be assembled. It's got some cool features like power windows, a GT dash, and, get this, a fabulous 8-track player. Talk about period-correct charm. Mechanically, they've tackled the important stuff. New master cylinder, fresh gas tank and lines, and a new radiator. The silver paint job isn't winning any awards, and yes, there are some dings in the body, but the seller says it's pretty straight overall with no major damage. Look, at $2,800, you're basically buying a running, driving Ranchero with a fresh V8 heart for pennies on the dollar of what's been invested. Sure, you'll need to finish the interior assembly and maybe consider some bodywork and paint down the line, but that's all cosmetic stuff. These Rancheros are getting harder to find, and this one's got good bones with that new engine. For someone willing to put in some weekend work to finish it up, this could be an absolute steal. 5. Let me tell you about this 1978 Chevy C10 I found on Craigslist for $10,200. I've got to be honest, the seller's description is pretty minimal here, which always makes me a bit cautious. The truck's wearing blue paint and comes with an automatic transmission, which is a comfortable setup for these classic C10s. The seller states it runs great with no issues and claims it's in good condition, but at this price point, you'd really want to see more details about its history and any work that's been done. These 7387 C10s are super popular right now, and prices have been climbing, but $10,200 is getting up there without more information about the truck's condition, mileage, or any modifications. We don't even know what engine it's running. Look, I've got to be straight with you. While these square-body Chevys are fantastic trucks with great potential, I'd want to see a lot more information and documentation before considering this price. The seller's brief description doesn't give us much to go on. If you're interested in this C10, you'll definitely want to do a thorough in-person inspection and ask about maintenance history, any restoration work, and mechanical details. These trucks are known for their reliability and great looks, but at this price point, you need to know exactly what you're getting. 6. Let me tell you about this awesome 1979 Ford F-250 Highboy that just popped up on Craigslist for $2,500. And folks, this isn't just any F-250. We're talking about a legitimate Highboy 4x4, which is becoming quite the collector's item. Let's get excited about what's under the hood. This beast is packing a rebuilt 460 big block with only 12,000 miles on the rebuild, and the seller's got the paperwork to prove it. That's a massive plus for authenticity. They've modernized it a bit with electric ignition and fuel pump, which honestly makes it more reliable for regular use. The odometer shows 94,001 miles, and the automatic transmission is reportedly shifting smoothly, even at wide open throttle, which is a great sign. It's got factory AC, though it'll need updating to modern refrigerant and a recharge, which is a nice luxury feature for a late 70s truck. Now let me be straight with you about the tires. They're showing their age with some cracking despite good tread. But here's the good news. The seller is including a set of backup tires with 30% tread, but no cracking at no extra cost. That's pretty fair. The truck's been stored in a shop most recently, which is great for preservation. And with all those maintenance receipts in hand, you've got a documented history of what's been done to it. Look, at $2,500, considering today's market for highboys, especially with a documented 460 rebuild, this could be a solid deal. These trucks are getting harder to find, especially in good running condition with paperwork to back up the major work. 7. Let me be real with you about this 1975 Ford F-150 that's listed for $18,000 on Craigslist. I've got to say, the seller's description is pretty vague for a truck at this price point. What we do know is it's a white F-150 with a V8 engine, automatic transmission, and around 100,000 miles on the clock. The seller mentions lots of upgrades, but doesn't specify what they are, which is kind of frustrating when we're talking about an $18,000 asking price. I mean, those upgrades better be pretty substantial at this price point. Look, I've got to be straight with you. While 70s F-150s are fantastic trucks and values have been climbing, $18,000 is serious money for a 75 F-150 without detailed information about its condition, modifications, or maintenance history. The sellers owned it for 5 years, which is good for stability, but we really need more details to justify that price tag. If you're interested in this truck, you'll definitely want to ask for a complete list of those upgrades and recent maintenance. These old Fords are great trucks with tons of potential, but at this price point, you need to know exactly what you're getting. What do you think about this mystery white F-150? Would you want a lot more details before considering it at $18K? 8. Let me tell you about this seriously clean 1970 Chevy C10 stepside that's popped up on Craigslist for $27,000. This isn't your average work truck. We're talking about a well-built classic here. Let's get excited about what's under the hood. This beauty is rocking a massive 454 big block paired with a 400 turbo transmission. That's a potent combination that'll definitely get your attention. The truck's been modernized with vintage air AC, which is a huge plus for actual usability in today's world. Now let's talk about that body. It's wearing black paint, and while the odometer's broken, the seller claims it's in excellent condition. One interesting detail is that the bed is from 2009, so you're getting newer steel back there. The stepside design on these 70 C10s is just classic American styling at its finest. I've got to be straight with you though. While $27,000 is serious money, the market for well-built C10s, especially with big block power, has been pretty hot. The combination of the 454, 400 turbo, and vintage air shows this truck has had some thoughtful upgrades. The seller mentions that both interior and exterior are very nice, and that it needs to be seen to be appreciated. While I wish we had more specific details about the build, these early C10s, when done right, are becoming legitimate collector pieces. What do you think about this black beauty? Would you daily drive it or save it for special occasions? That 454 must sound amazing through what I'm hoping is a proper exhaust system. 9. Let me tell you about this sweet 1967 GMC pickup that's just popped up on Craigslist for $12,000. And folks, this one's pretty special because it's largely unmolested, a rare find these days. Let's talk about what makes this truck interesting. It's running its original inline-six with a classic 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's pure vintage truck goodness right there. The only modern concession is the addition of power steering, which honestly just makes it more enjoyable to drive. The sellers put some real work into this blue beauty with new tires, a fresh seat, new gas tank and sending unit, and shiny chrome bumpers and side mirrors. But here's where it gets even better. It comes with a bonus 327 V8 and transmission. That's like getting 2 trucks in one. You can keep it original or go the V8 route if you want more power. At $12,000, considering today's market for 67 GMCs, especially one this clean and original, you're looking at a fair price. These trucks are getting harder to find in stock condition, as most have been heavily modified or hot-rodded by now. Look, I've got to be straight with you. Finding a mostly stock 67 GMC with both its original drivetrain and a spare V8 setup is pretty uncommon. This could be perfect for someone who wants to either preserve a piece of automotive history or has the option to upgrade to V8 power later. What do you think about this classic GMC? Would you keep that inline-six for originality or swap in that 327 V8 for some extra grunt? 10. Let me tell you about this 1985 Chevy K10 4x4 that's up for grabs on Craigslist for $8,750. This is one of those classic square-body trucks that's been getting a lot of attention lately. Let's break it down. We're looking at a gray K10 with a V8 engine, though the seller doesn't specify which one, paired with a manual transmission, which is always fun in a 4x4. The odometer's showing 160,000 miles before it stopped working, so we've got to assume it's traveled a bit further than that. Now, I've got to be straight with you. The seller's description is pretty bare bones here. At $8,750, you'd really want to know more about the truck's condition, maintenance history, and any modifications. These square-body K10s are fantastic trucks with great potential, but without more details about its current state, it's hard to fully evaluate the asking price. The 4x4 setup and manual transmission make this an interesting find, as many of these were automatics. The 85 K10s are known for their reliability and rugged good looks, and they're becoming increasingly popular with collectors and enthusiasts. Look, if you're interested in this K10, you'll definitely want to do a thorough inspection and ask about its mechanical history. The broken odometer and limited description suggest you'll want to verify everything in person. What do you think about this square-body Chevy? Would you want more details before considering it at this price point? That manual transmission sure makes it interesting though, doesn't it? 11. Let me tell you about this absolutely stunning 1969 Chevy C10 that's up for grabs at $27,500. And folks, this isn't your average classic truck. We're talking about a serious build here. Let's get excited about what's under the hood. This beauty is running a freshly refurbished 383 stroker engine paired with a rebuilt 700R4 transmission from a Corvette. That's a killer combination. The engine's been built right with a high-rise intake and a 650 double pumper carb, which means this thing's got some serious power on tap. The aluminum radiator will keep everything running cool, which is crucial with a setup like this. The attention to detail is impressive. We're talking all new brakes, a modern electronic dash, new tilt steering column, and fresh hoses throughout. But what really catches my eye is that bed. It's got an oak inlay with marine-grade paint and finish. That's the kind of detail that shows someone really cared about doing this build right. The green paint looks clean in a world full of black and red resto mods, and the whole package just screams quality. At $27,500, while it's not cheap, you're getting a thoroughly built truck with some serious performance upgrades and thoughtful modern amenities. Look, I've got to be straight with you. When someone combines a 383 stroker with a 700R4 trans, they're building for both performance and drivability. This isn't just a showpiece, it's built to be driven and enjoyed. What do you think about this green machine? Would you daily it or save it for special occasions? That 383 stroker must sound absolutely amazing. 12. Let me tell you about this absolutely incredible 1954 F100 that's up for grabs at $29,500. And folks, this isn't your typical restored truck. This is something special. First off, let's appreciate the unique approach here. It's deliberately finished to look like a working 1950s truck, complete with period-correct imperfections, which has even landed it roles in movies and TV shows. But don't let that patina fool you. Underneath that purposefully aged exterior is a seriously well-built machine. Let's talk about what's making this F100 tick. It's running a rebuilt 302 high-output V8 with just 23,000 miles, mated to a T10 4-speed manual transmission. The drivetrain is built for reliability with modern upgrades like an Edelbrock 4-barrel carb, electronic ignition, and a beefy 4-row aluminum radiator. That Ford 9-inch rear end is bulletproof, and the 4-link suspension setup means this thing handles way better than stock. The upgrades list is massive. Heights Mustang 2, front suspension with power rack and pinion steering, power disc brakes, custom AC and heat, stainless bed, and a fully boxed frame. They've even thought about the details with a high-output alternator and gel battery. Look, I've got to be straight with you. At $29,500, you're getting an incredible deal considering the seller has over $50,000 invested. This isn't just some cosmetically restored trailer queen. It's a thoroughly engineered classic that's built to be driven and enjoyed. The fact that it's been kept indoors and comes with classic car insurance eligibility, only $200 annually, is just icing on the cake. What do you think about this sleeper F100? Would you keep the working truck look, or would you be tempted to give it a glossy show finish? That 302 T10 combo must be an absolute blast to drive. 13. Let me tell you about this wicked 1966 Chevy C10 that's up for grabs at $25,000. This isn't your typical classic truck. We're looking at a serious sleeper build here. Let's get excited about what's under the hood. This beauty's rocking a completely rebuilt 5.3L LS motor built by Bob Ellis, a guy with 30-plus years of racing experience. We're talking Stage 2 cams, upgraded pistons and crank, and the seller estimates it's pushing close to 400 p. It's paired with a 4L60E transmission, giving you modern overdrive capability for comfortable cruising. The truck's got that perfect sleeper vibe, wearing its patina and imperfect paint proudly, which makes it a functional truck you can actually use without worry. It's sitting pretty on a lowered stance, 2.5 front, 4 rear on drop spindles, but still practical enough to haul lumber and fence panels. The modernization is thoughtful. Power steering, power brakes with front discs, new radiator, custom exhaust, and even a Dakota Digital RTX dash with Bluetooth. The frame is rust-free, and the underside is remarkably clean for a 60-plus-year-old truck. With only 78K original miles before the LS swap, this truck's got good bones. Look, I've got to be straight with you. At $25,000, you're getting a seriously well-built truck that combines classic style with modern performance. This isn't a precious show queen, it's a real driver's truck that can work hard and play harder. What do you think about this sleeper C10? Would you daily drive it? That LS must sound absolutely amazing through that custom exhaust. 14. Let me tell you about this 1984 Ford F-150 that's listed for $6,500 on Craigslist, but I've got to be straight with you. The seller's description is incredibly bare bones here. What we do know is that it's a V8-powered F-150 with an automatic transmission, showing 65,000 miles on the odometer. The seller emphasizes it has fresh paint, but doesn't mention the color or provide any details about the truck's mechanical condition or history. Look, these 80s F-150s are solid trucks when properly maintained, and they're starting to gain some appreciation in the classic truck market. However, at $6,500, you'd really want to know a lot more about its condition, maintenance history, and what V8 engine it's running. Could be a 302, 351, or even a 460. The low mileage, 65,000, is interesting if accurate, but without more information about how long it's been sitting, recent maintenance, or the condition of crucial systems, it's hard to fully evaluate the asking price. If you're interested in this F-150, you'll definitely want to do a thorough inspection and ask lots of questions about its history and mechanical condition. That fresh paint is nice, but what's underneath matters more. What do you think about this 84 Ford? Would you want way more details before considering it at this price point? 15. Let me tell you about this incredibly honest 1965 F-100 stepside that's up for grabs for $8,000. And folks, this one's special because it's been properly sorted. Let's talk about what makes this truck awesome. It's powered by the legendary 300 cubic inch inline six, often called the tractor motor, because it's practically indestructible. Paired with a 4-speed manual, this is the setup that built America. And here's the best part. It's not just some pretty showpiece. This is a genuine daily driver that's been thoroughly gone through. The seller has done an impressive amount of maintenance work, and I mean impressive. We're talking about a complete refresh of all the vital systems. New fuel system components, fresh brakes all around, all fluids changed and sealed up tight, new tires, and even practical upgrades like new windshield wiper gaskets to keep it rain tight. The interior's gotten love too with new upholstery. What really catches my attention is the seller's honesty. They've daily driven it to work and actually used it as intended. No deep rust or rust through is huge for a truck of this age, and everything's been maintained with readily available parts from AutoZone, which means no hunting for unobtainable specialty parts. Look, at $8,000, you're getting a thoroughly sorted, daily drivable classic truck with the bulletproof 300 4-speed combo. This isn't some half-baked project, it's a properly maintained workhorse that's ready to roll. 16. Let me tell you about this interesting 1984 GMC Sierra C-100 that's up for grabs for just $3,800, and I've got to be straight with you about both its strengths and weaknesses. Let's start with the good stuff. This truck's got a replacement 305 V8 with only 20,000 miles on it, which is a huge plus. The seller has done quite a bit of mechanical work, including a new water pump, distributor, carburetor, fuel pump, master cylinder, radiator with hoses, and a new 20-gallon gas tank, with a bonus tank included for dual setup. The tires are relatively fresh with just 10,000 miles on them, and it's got new rear brakes. Here's where it gets interesting. There's a complete new interior still in boxes, black leather bucket seats, door panels, dash, waiting to be installed. The bed's been rhino-lined, which is always practical, and you get a bunch of OEM parts including badges and grille pieces. Now let's be honest about the issues. There's minor damage to the passenger fender from a parking lot incident, and more importantly, there's a shift linkage problem causing high revs between first and second gear. The heater core is currently bypassed, though fixable, as these are common issues on these trucks. Look, at $3,800, you're getting a truck with some needs but also a lot of potential. The mechanical refreshment is substantial, and having that new interior ready to go adds real value. These square-body GMCs are getting harder to find, especially with documented improvements like this one has. What do you think about this Sierra? Would you tackle those remaining issues and make it your own? That fresh 305 with only 20,000 miles is pretty tempting at this price point. 17. Let me tell you about this absolute beast of a 1971 El Camino that's up for grabs at $20,000. And folks, this isn't your average grocery getter. This is a serious performance build. Let's get excited about what's under the hood. We're talking about a monster, 454 big block that's been built to perform. It's got a 543 roller cam, roller rockers, and 148 heads that have been polished and ported. The breathing's been maximized with a Wyand intake and Edelbrock carb setup. This thing means business. The drivetrain is equally impressive with a Turbo 400 automatic backed by a 2800 RPM converter and a bulletproof 12-bolt Posei rear end. The exhaust system is pure music with stainless headers flowing into MagnaFlow duals with electric cutouts. Imagine the sound when you open those up. They've thought about drivability too. It's got power steering, disc brakes, and air conditioning. The 4-core radiator with electric fan means this big block should stay cool even in traffic. Those air shocks in the rear let you adjust the stance and handling for different situations. Look, at $20,000, you're getting a seriously well-built El Camino with a performance-focused big block setup. This isn't just some cruiser. It's built to run hard while still being streetable with all the comfort features. What do you think about this orange monster? Would you daily it or save it for weekend warrior duties? That 454 with those cutouts must sound absolutely wicked when you open it up. 18. Let me tell you about this 1979 Chevy long bed that's listed for $12,000. But I've got to be straight with you about a few things here. First, let's talk about what we know. It's running a 350 V8 paired with a 3-speed manual on the column, which is a classic no-nonsense setup. The seller says it's got 170,000 miles, runs and drives great, and fires up reliably. They've added some updates like newer tires and wheels, fresh paint, and a bed liner. The interior is reportedly clean, which is always good to hear on these older trucks. Now, here's where we need to be really honest. This truck has a rebuilt title, which is a significant detail at this price point. While rebuilt titles aren't always deal breakers, they typically affect a vehicle's value and should warrant a thorough inspection to understand the truck's history. At $12,000, given the rebuilt title and relatively basic description, you'd really want to know more about what caused the rebuilt status, what kind of work was done, and get a detailed look at its current condition. These square-body Chevys are climbing in value, but the rebuilt title is something to consider carefully. What do you think about this long bed Chevy? Would you want more details about its history before considering it at this price? That 3-on-the-tree transmission is getting pretty rare these days. 19. Let me tell you about this 1965 F100 custom cab that's listed for $25,000, but I've got to be straight with you. The seller's description is surprisingly brief for a truck at this price point. What we do know is that it's a desirable short-bed custom cab model, sporting a 352 V8 with a manual transmission. The seller mentions it's got new interior, fresh paint in red, and new tires and wheels. They also note it's currently registered and running, with a clean title and only 1,000 miles showing, though we don't know if that's since restoration or if the odometer's rolled over. Look, these 65 F100s, especially in short bed custom cab configuration, are beautiful trucks and they're definitely climbing in value. However, at $25,000, you'd really want to know a lot more details about the restoration work, the condition of the mechanicals, and any modifications or upgrades that might have been done. The 352 V8 is a great engine choice. It's got plenty of power and they're known for being reliable, but we don't know if it's original or rebuilt, or what kind of shape it's in. What do you think about this red beauty? Would you want way more details before considering it at this price point? That custom cab short bed combination is pretty desirable though. 20. Let me tell you about this sweet 1972 GMC Sierra Grande that's up for grabs for $12,500. And folks, this is one of those honest, well-preserved pieces of truck history. Let's appreciate what we're looking at. This is a two-owner truck showing just 71,000 original miles, powered by the reliable inline-six engine, paired with an automatic transmission. The seller's being refreshingly honest about both its strengths and its imperfections, which I really appreciate. The truck's wearing a repaint in green, though they openly admit the bed dents weren't addressed during the paint job. The interior is clean but shows its age with a cracked dash, which is pretty common for these trucks. But here's what's really cool. Everything works, including the original radio, which is rare for a 50-year-old truck, and it starts, stops, and drives without issues. Mechanically, it sounds solid with no leaks reported, and the heater works well, always a plus in an old truck. It's riding on new tires, and you even get a set of original GMC wheels with the deal. That's a nice bonus for authenticity. Look, at $12,500 for a two-owner Sierra Grande with documented low miles, you're looking at a pretty fair deal in today's market. This isn't some over-restored showpiece. It's an honest running and driving classic truck with some character marks that tell its story. What do you think about this green machine? Would you keep it stock or give it some upgrades? That inline-six is known for running forever if you take care of it.